I was out of options. Rent was overdue, the eviction notice was taped to my door like a scarlet letter, and my fridge held nothing but half a bottle of ketchup and a takeout container I was too afraid to open. I'd stopped answering calls weeks ago. There were only so many ways to say, "I'll pay you next Friday," when Friday had stopped showing up for you. Every night I sat in front of my laptop until my eyes burned, scrolling through job sites that blurred together into one long rejection letter. Experience required. Degree preferred. Must be willing to smile while dying inside. No one hires someone whose only resume entry is desperate. That's when I saw it. It wasn't even online. I was walking home from the grocery store, empty-handed because even ramen felt like a luxury, and I noticed a flyer taped to the bus stop shelter. It was printed on plain white paper, the kind you'd pull from a dusty office printer. Black letters. No logo. No company name. Sell your time. Competitive rates. No experience necessary. I laughed. Out loud to no one. A scam, obviously. Some shady gig that ends with your kidneys on the dark web. But the thing stuck in my head the entire walk home like an earworm. Sell your time. The words were too simple, too confident, like whoever wrote them didn't care if you believed or not. By the time I reached my apartment, curiosity had started wrestling with hopelessness. What if it wasn't a scam? What if it was just weird? Weird was better than starving. The email was printed in tiny letters at the bottom of the page. I typed it in, hit send, and told myself it was just a joke. They replied before I even finished making coffee. The message was short. Thank you for your interest in Chronocorp. Orientation available tomorrow, 9 a.m. No documentation required. Please arrive on time. No address signature, no phone number. Just a street name I'd never heard of and those last two words, on time. The next morning I went. I don't even remember deciding to. I just remember standing in front of a building that looked too clean to exist in my part of town. Chronocorp. The name was printed in thin silver letters above the glass doors. No slogan, no logo. Inside, the air smelled like nothing, the sterile, filtered kind of nothing that only money can afford. Everything gleamed white. The floors, the walls, even the furniture. The only color came from the clocks. There were so many clocks. Dozens of them lined the walls, each one a little different. Antique brass, digital displays, wristwatches in glass cases, but all ticking in perfect, synchronized rhythm. Not a single second out of place. The sound was hypnotic. Soft but endless. The receptionist sat behind a white counter that looked like it had never known dust. Her hair was neatly pinned back, her uniform spotless, her expression off, like a smile worn thin from too much practice. "Thank you for your interest in Chronocorp," she said, every syllable smooth and balanced. "We value every second." I told her I didn't have a resume. She didn't blink. "We won't need that." She slid a clipboard toward me. The paper was thick and heavy, the kind you'd use for wedding invitations. It wasn't a job application. There was no section for previous employment or emergency contact. Just a handful of lines filled with legal jargon that might as well have been written in another language. The only part in bold, centered in the middle of the page, read, "Time exchanged." There was a line for a signature underneath. I hesitated, glancing up to ask a question, but the receptionist wasn't looking at me anymore. Her gaze was fixed on the largest clock on the wall, a massive black and gold thing that ticked with mechanical precision. For a moment I thought the sound of it got louder, like the air itself was keeping time. "Do I need to?" I started, but she cut me off gently. "Just sign, and we'll take care of the rest." Her tone was kind. Too kind. Like someone comforting a child before a vaccination. My stomach twisted, but the word paycheck echoed in my head louder than the ticking. "Sign." She smiled, not warmly, but with a kind of satisfaction that made my chest tighten. Then she reached for a small silver stopwatch on the counter, pressed it once, and said softly, "Your time begins now." The ticking in the room seemed to falter for a single beat. Just one. Then everything went perfectly, eerily back to rhythm. The job turned out to be easy. Too easy. A man in a gray suit met me in the lobby the next morning. He didn't smile, didn't introduce himself, just turned on his heel and motioned for me to follow. His shoes made no sound on the tile. Mine did. That was the first thing that felt wrong. It was like the building only chose to echo for me. The hallways stretched longer than they should have. Clean. Too clean. White walls, chrome trim, soft white lights that never flickered, and clocks everywhere. Wall clocks, desk clocks, floor clocks, all ticking together in a perfect synchronized rhythm. The sound should have been comforting, but it wasn't. It reminded me of breathing, 1, 2, 3, and I couldn't tell if it was mine or the building's. We passed door after door, each labeled donation room followed by a number. I tried to count them, but somewhere between 6 and 9 I lost track. The numbers didn't make sense. We turned corners that didn't seem to exist in the building's floor plan I'd seen online. Finally, he stopped at donation room 7. The door opened with a soft click, and he motioned me inside. The room was small, barely big enough for the chair in the center and the machine beside it. The machine looked old, older than the building itself. Heavy brass panels, faint scratches on its surface, the kind of hum you feel more than hear. Wires coiled out from its sides like veins, ending in silver discs the size of coins. A dial on the front read, "Hours donated, 0.00. Please sit," the man said. His voice was quiet, smooth, practiced. I obeyed, mostly out of habit, out of hunger. The discs against my temples were cold enough to make me flinch. The metal smelled faintly like ozone, like lightning before a storm. "You may feel a brief acceleration," he said. "That's normal." Acceleration. I opened my mouth to ask what that meant, but before I could speak, the hum deepened. It wasn't loud, more like a pressure behind my eyes. My heartbeat started matching it. Or maybe it was the other way around. Then it stopped. The man was already removing the discs. His movements were calm, deliberate, unbothered. The wall clock said an hour had passed. My phone said the same. But I hadn't felt it. Not a second of it. My body felt rested, lighter, like I'd been asleep but better. My hunger was gone, replaced by this strange clarity, like my brain had been polished. The man handed me a slip of paper. $480. "Payment is automatic," he said. "You'll receive it instantly." He was right. By the time I checked my phone, the deposit was already there. No delay, no pending transaction. Just done. The second session went the same. So did the third. Each visit I'd sit, feel the hum, blink, and time would vanish. No dizziness, no side effects, just missing hours and a bigger balance in my account. Other employees drifted through the hallways like ghosts in pressed uniforms. They didn't talk much. They didn't look much either. Sometimes I'd pass someone I swore I'd seen before. Only their face would seem slightly off. Not in a big way, just subtly rearranged like they were the same person but through a fogged mirror. Once, I stopped by the vending machine on my way out and saw a woman staring at it, hand hovering over the keypad, motionless. Her reflection in the metal looked sharper than her actual face. "What does it do?" I asked, nodding toward her door. She blinked slowly, then smiled without looking up. "Don't overthink it," she said. "Just enjoy the paychecks." And I did. The money felt unreal at first, too much, too easy, but after a few sessions I stopped questioning it. Bills disappeared. The fridge filled up. I bought a new mattress, decent headphones, even a proper coat for the first time in years. I slept through the night without the usual dread gnawing at me. For a while it felt like maybe this was what stability looked like. But little things started bothering me. Clocks, for one. They ticked in perfect unison at work, at home, even on my phone. I'd lie in bed sometimes and hear it under the silence, soft, steady, everywhere. And the seconds, they'd skip. Not randomly, but rhythmically, like something was cutting out the empty space between ticks. Sometimes my phone would jump from 10 hours 42 minutes and 6 seconds to 10 hours 42 minutes and 8 seconds. Cleanly, like the world had blinked and moved on without me. I told myself it was nothing. Just a glitch. But some mornings I'd wake up and my phone's alarm would already be ringing, even though I hadn't said it. I'd check the call log and see a number labeled Chronocorp HQ, listed at times I didn't remember being awake. And every night, just before I drifted off, I'd feel that faint hum behind my temples again. It wasn't loud enough to scare me, just loud enough to remind me it was still there. Counting. The first thing I lost was a meal. Nothing major, just dinner. I came home one night, dropped my keys on the counter, and saw an empty plate in the sink. Grease streaks, crumbs, a fork balanced across it. Only I hadn't cooked. I hadn't eaten. I stood there staring at the plate longer than I cared to admit, waiting for some memory to click into place. Didn't. The smell of garlic still lingered in the air, faint but fresh. Check my phone. A text from my friend Mia. That pasta was good. You should cook more often. My thumb hovered over the screen. I hadn't seen her in weeks. I started to type back something like what pasta. But before I finished, the typing bubbles appeared on her end, then froze, then disappeared. The timestamp on her message read, yesterday. I stared at that word until the phone went dark. After that, it wasn't just dinner. I'd open my fridge and find groceries I didn't remember buying. Fresh fruit, cold cuts, a bottle of wine that definitely hadn't been there the day before. Once I found a grocery receipt in my jacket pocket, signed in my handwriting, with a timestamp for 2:13 a.m. Sometimes I'd wake up and my laundry was folded neatly in the basket. Once my sheets were changed. I don't even own spare sheets. For a while I blamed stress. Or maybe the sessions at Chronocorp were messing with my sleep schedule. Maybe donating hours confused my body clock. It was the only explanation that didn't make me sound insane. But it wasn't just me. One morning the clocks in my apartment stopped. Every single one digital analog wall phone for exactly 1 second. Then, without a sound, they all caught up in perfect unison. I stood there holding my breath, listening to the faint tick that seemed to crawl under everything. The fridge hum, the traffic outside, even my heartbeat, everything was syncing to that rhythm. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was constant. Then came the bruises. Small circular ones on my arms and neck. Not painful, just there. The size of a coin. I tried to remember bumping into something, but the harder I tried, the more my memories slipped away like water between fingers. Some mornings there'd be new marks. Faint scratches along my ribs. Little red indentations on my temples where the discs used to sit. At work no one mentioned them. The man in the gray suit still met me in the lobby. Still walked me wordlessly to donation room 7. Chair. Same hum. Same slip of paper with a new number. Only the machine was different this time. The dial didn't start at 0. It already read 3.00 when I sat down. I frowned. Why does it say that? The man's expression didn't change, but his eyes seemed distant, like he was reading off a script written behind my head. It accounts for carryover, he said. Carryover of what? He smiled. It was the kind of smile people practice in mirrors. All muscle, no meaning. Time isn't lost, he said softly. It's redistributed. Before I could respond, the hum began. This time I felt it deeper. Not in my head, in my bones. The air thickened. My vision tunneled. When it stopped, I didn't feel lighter. Felt stretched. Like part of me hadn't caught up yet. Like I'd stood up too fast and left something behind. That night I couldn't sleep. The hum seemed to follow me home, whispering in the stillness. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw numbers flickering behind my eyelids. 3.00, 4.25, 6.00. Like my dreams were clocking in. The next morning Mia called me. I almost didn't answer. When I finally did, her voice was trembling. Hey, she said. Are you okay? I'm fine. Why? You don't remember, do you? Remember what? Silence. Long, unsteady. You were at my place last night. You brought wine. You told me you quit your job. My chest went tight. No, I didn't. Her breath hitched. You did. You were different. You looked happy. But your eyes. What about them? Another pause. Then quietly, "They weren't yours." I didn't know what to say. I think I hung up without meaning to. That night I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The hum was louder now, steady, pulsing behind my eyes like a second heartbeat. The clocks in my room ticked out of sync for the first time since I'd started at Chronocorp. Then, one by one, they corrected themselves. Except my wristwatch. It was still ticking a second too fast. When I tried to reset it, the second hand pushed back. Not jammed. Not broken. Pushing back. Like something inside was fighting to keep going. I stopped going in for a week. No calls. No emails. No one from Chronocorp showed up at my door. At first, I thought maybe they'd forgotten about me. Then the direct deposits kept coming. Every Friday. Same time. Same amount. Even though I hadn't clocked in. That's what broke me. It wasn't guilt. It was curiosity. If they didn't need me to show up, then where the hell was my time coming from? I decided to go back, not to work, but to find out who was signing my life away. Chronocorp's lobby looked different that morning. Brighter somehow. Polish. The walls gleamed with that false hospital white sheen that only fluorescent light can make. The air was sterile, humming softly with the sound of electricity, or maybe time itself. And the clocks, they were everywhere. But this time, every single one showed the same thing, 12 o'clock. Hundreds of them ticking in unison, yet somehow perfectly silent. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. "Mr. Hale," she said, her voice syrup smooth. Froze. "My name isn't." She tilted her head, still smiling. "It will be." She slid a visitor badge across the desk. I looked down. It didn't say visitor. It said, Donor 27. Expired access. Something inside me twisted. I didn't correct her. I just took the badge and walked past before she could stop me. The hallways were quieter than usual, but I could feel movement through the walls. Machines breathing, wires pulsing. The floors vibrated faintly under my shoes, like the building had a heartbeat. I passed room after room, glass walls revealing rows of people slumped in the same reclining chairs I'd used. Discs on their temples. The machines beside them pulsed with faint blue light. Most were motionless. Some twitched. Their eyes fluttered beneath closed lids, as if they were dreaming someone else's dream. I reached the end of the corridor. A locked glass door read, "Client access. Authorized personnel only." I swiped my badge just to try. The lock clicked open. Inside was colder. The temperature dropped a few degrees instantly, and my breath fogged the glass. Rows of monitors filled the room. Hundreds of screens showing live feeds of people. All ordinary moments. A man eating dinner, a woman brushing her hair, a child playing with a dog. All of them happy. None of them noticed the cameras. Then one screen caught my eye. The feed showed me. I was in a restaurant I didn't recognize, wearing a suit I didn't own, drinking wine I couldn't afford. Across from me sat a woman, older, elegant, poised in a way money teaches. She was smiling, calm, as if she'd known me forever. A label flashed at the corner of the feed. Client. Adela Hale. Purchased hours. 268. 268 hours. 11 days. That's how much of me she owned. Clicked into the file. Notes appeared. Excellent physical compatibility. Responsive body control. Requests recurring sessions. Remaining balance. 2 years, 11 months, 4 days. My mouth went dry. I hadn't sold that much. "You're not supposed to be here." The voice came from behind me. The man in the gray suit. Same one from the first day. Only now, his face looked thinner, like someone had scraped the human off him and left something hollow underneath. "She likes your body," he said, calm as ever. "Says it's easy to move in." I turned on him. "I didn't agree to this." He shrugged almost kindly. "You signed the contract. You didn't specify the limit. That's what happens when you sell time in bulk." I laughed, sharp and ugly. "Then I want it back." He tilted his head, watching me the way a clock might watch a second hand. "You can't take back what's already spent." My hand shook. I grabbed the monitor, yanking it sideways. Where is she? He looked up, eyes flicking toward the clock above the door. Not here, he said. She's in there. The clock read 12 o'clock. It didn't move. Then something cracked inside my skull, like the sound of glass shattering underwater. The air folded inward. I was standing in the restaurant. Same table. Same wine. Adela Hale sat across from me, smiling my own smile. Hello, darling, she said. And it was my voice. I stumbled back. Get out of me. She chuckled softly. You gave me this. You didn't want the time. I simply made better use of it. The restaurant froze mid-motion, waiters paused mid-step, wine mid-pour. Laughter suspended in the air like a photo. The light flickered, but it wasn't dimming. It was hesitating. When I looked down, my hands weren't sinking. One lagged behind the other, like my body couldn't decide what second it belonged to. She stood, lifting her glass with perfect grace. You shouldn't have come back, she said. You're making a mess of the schedule. The walls bent inward. The air shimmered, bending sound and shape together. I could hear the hum again, the same low vibration from the donation room, only now it filled every inch of me. My bones vibrated with it. Stop, I whispered. She smiled wider. It's already stopped. And she was right. Everything was motionless except her and me. Then I realized she wasn't really moving either. She was replaying seconds ahead of me, like I was watching her future through a glass wall I couldn't reach. Time, she whispered, her voice overlapping itself like echoes in a tunnel. Doesn't belong to anyone. It just waits for someone desperate enough to sell it. I blinked and she was gone. So was the restaurant. I was back in donation room 7. Chair. Cold air. The hum fading into silence. Only the clock on the wall remained, still ticking 1 second too fast. I reached for it, desperate to stop the sound to prove I still existed. My hand passed straight through. The hum cut out. Everything stopped. For a heartbeat I thought that was peace. Then I realized it wasn't silence. It was the sound of something waiting to start again. I woke up to the hum again. Familiar but distant. Not my own heartbeat this time. It was someone else's, pulsing inside me in a rhythm I couldn't claim. The chair beneath me was cold. Donation room 7. Same walls. Same ceiling. Same hum trembling faintly through the air like a held breath, like the room itself was waiting for me to remember. A slip of paper lay on the counter. My handwriting. Only the number was different. $1,200. I didn't remember doing it. The receptionist smiled when I stumbled out. Perfect. Practice. Empty, like her face was drawn onto glass. Thank you for your service, she said. I don't. My voice cracked. The words felt foreign, like I was trying to speak through static, like someone else was borrowing my mouth to answer for me. Her eyes flicked toward the clock above the door. It wasn't ticking. Or maybe it was, but the seconds weren't mine anymore. Your time begins now, she whispered. I turned toward the mirror. It wasn't me. Not entirely. The face staring back belonged to someone else, wearing my eyes like borrowed glass. My hair, my skin, my hands. But hollow. A mask I had worn for someone else's comfort. Its smile twitched half a beat too late. The hum grew louder. Not just the machine. The walls. There. The space between my ribs. Every breath vibrated like it was running on borrowed seconds. Every heartbeat felt least, out of sync with my chest. I tried to speak. My mouth moved. The words weren't mine. I tried to move. My body responded halfway, awkwardly, uncertainly. A marionette with tangled strings, limbs jerking just off time. Then the screen in front of me flickered on. Another me appeared, sitting in an office I didn't recognize, smiling at a client I didn't know. Hours I'd never lived. Memories I'd never made. Playing back in real time like a recording, except the recording was my body. In one feed I was laughing. In another I was crying. In one I was holding a child. In another a knife. All of it me. None of it mine. I realized with a sick clarity. I wasn't gone. Not yet. But I was someone else's property now. The receptionist reached for the stopwatch. Pressed it once. "Your hour has been sold," she said softly. "Enjoy the rest of your life. If you can call it that." The world wavered. The hum became a single stretched note that filled everything. Every second I'd counted as mine slipped through my fingers like sand, leaving only the rhythm of something still ticking, somewhere far away. I tried to scream. The sound that came out was mine, and yet not. I tried to remember who I was. Nothing. Just a lingering echo of borrowed time. Then nothing. No pain. No sound. Just a faint, eternal ticking, waiting for the next desperate soul. Thought, maybe this is what eternity feels like. And then I was gone.